Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Fatboyz Dynasty podcast presented by the Fantasy Holics. Let's just jump straight into this. What a crazy week 3 we had. I mean, we had some great games to look at. We had the Miami and Buffalo game, and then you had Tennessee and the Raiders, and then you had Kansas City getting upset. And then, of course, the best game of the week was your Atlanta Falcons and my Seattle Seahawks. So let's just sit right there. We got together. We had a little food.
Pretty sure it wasn't the 10 to 11 showcase that we saw last night on Sunday Night Football.
I'll get into that one here shortly. That was unfortunately that I stayed awake and watched that. I should have went night-night.
Sure.
But let's get into our appetizer split. I know we went to eat together and hung out, and we definitely didn't split an appetizer.
No.
But we will split this game. I'll let you hit up on the Seahawks offense on what you saw.
Yeah, so, the one thing that I thought was really interesting is the Falcons defense, having watched all 3 games of the Falcons so far, this is the worst the defense has looked, and that's a big credit, I think, to you guys' offense. And Gino really, up until that forced throw at the end of the game, when he threw that pretty bad interception, he actually had a pretty good game. Definitely fantasy relevant as well. He had 32 completions on 44 attempts, 325 yards passing, and 2 touchdowns to go along with that 1 interception that was, like I said, was very late in the game. Other than that, he absolutely torched the defense. Rashad Penny was the leader on the ground for you guys. 14 attempts, 66 yards, averaged 4.7 yards a carry. And then you had 2 wide receivers in that game that were really the focal point. You had Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf both with over 10 targets in this game. Tyler Lockett had 11 targets, 9 receptions, 76 yards receiving. DK had 12 targets, 5 receptions, 64 yards, and a touchdown. You also had Will Dissly had another 3 receptions for 34 yards and a touchdown there. So you guys' pass-catching offense was definitely the focal point of that game for you guys. Definitely moved the ball very well. And, again, like I said, without that terrible throw at the end of the game, Gino had a pretty damn good game otherwise.
Yeah, unfortunately, we were unable to pull it out due to that late interception. Gino's actually top 10 in QBR on the season, too. I just was looking through those a little while ago. Gino's only missed, less than 20 passes all year, so he's been efficient, just not good enough to win some games. I mean, we do got 1 win. As for your guys' offense, you guys moved the ball pretty well against a young defense, lackluster defense to say the least. Mariota went 13 of 20 for 229, and I believe that's 1 touchdown. Patterson was your guys' lead carrier, or leading running back with 17 carries, 141 yards, and a touchdown. Kyle Pitts got back on track with 5 catches and 84 yards? Yeah. 87 yards, sorry. I can't read my own writing sometimes when I get to jotting it quick. London had 3 catches on 6 targets. And a touchdown. Atlanta looked good. Your guys' offense looked fairly decent out there. You guys kind of just moved the ball up and down on our weak young defense. There's really nothing that stands out to me on your offense. It seems like Patterson's going to be boom or bust every week. One week you'll get a good Patterson performance. Next week you might not get anything. And I think they realize that it's time to get Kyle Pitts involved. So your offense is starting to roll, I think.
Yeah, I know, and for people who didn't watch the game as closely as we both did, Brant, we've had a lot of questions on Cordero Patterson and a lot of questions on Kyle Pitts on our Sunday morning start sits. And one thing I will say that it should make people rest a little easier on Kyle Pitts is the typical way a game starts is a team has about 10 to 15 plays that are scripted, right? Like they've practiced those plays, they're ready to go for the first week, and it was very apparent that Arthur Smith wanted the ball in Kyle Pitts' hand because that first offensive drive of Atlanta's, he had the ball in his hand just about every opportunity that Mariota could get it to him. So And there were several opportunities for both Drake London and Kyle Pitts to get more, but Mariota overthrew him on deep balls as well a couple of times. So that's definitely worth noting. So, and I do want to say that I'm going to talk about Cordero Patterson a little bit later on in this episode as well.
Yeah.
So, do you want to go to your entree of the week, or do you want me to hit mine?
I could jump into mine. Mine was probably one of the most fun games to watch this week, and we caught the end of it as we met up later in the day to watch our 3:00 game. It was at Miami, and Miami running into that juggernaut of the Buffalo Bills, and they shut them down. I can't say they shut them down. They did put an L in their column. Buffalo had to travel on a short week. To Miami in the hot, humid. There was a lot of players getting cramped up. There's a lot of, people running in and out of that game. But let's talk about the Bills first. Josh Allen threw the ball 63 times, completed 42 passes for 400 yards, 2 touchdowns. He spread the ball out pretty nicely. He had 11 different pass catchers during that game. Singletary led the way with 9 carries and 9 catches for a total of 92 yards and 1 touchdown. Diggs went 7 for 74. He just didn't get his touchdown this week. So Diggs did dig things, just didn't find the end zone 2, 3, 4, 19 times, however many he's found it this season already. And then Miami, Tua took a big hit in the second. He came back. They say it was a back injury. Honestly, not 100% sure what's going on with Tua. He's on a short week. Keep an eye on that. I know that he got hit, got back up, fell back down, and had to come out for a little bit. So I keep an eye on that. He went 13 of 18 for 186 yards and 1 touchdown. Waddle led the way with 4 catches and 102 yards. The backfield is still a complete mystery there in Miami. Edmonds saw 44% of the snaps, but had 2 touchdowns on those 44% of the snaps. So he's obviously getting the goal line. Mostert had 56% of the snaps. And so, it's really, I don't know if anybody's start worthy. If they don't get a touchdown, nobody's really going to hang fantasy points in that backfield. But the biggest news to me was, after looking through these stats, is the Bills dominated this game. 495 total yards of offense to 212 yards of total offense. The Bills dominated this game and still somehow came out on the losing end of it.
Yeah, the Mark Sanchez too wanted to let everybody know he's very, very thankful he's off the hook with the butt fumble several years ago with the punt for the safety off of the Gunners' butt there in the end zone. I know we got a good laugh at that when we were all sitting together watching the games there at the restaurant.
Is he really off the hook, or is his name being brought back up even more now?
Yeah, a little bit. So a game that I watched closely it was one that I'm not sure I wanted to watch closely, but I found myself, it was like a train wreck. I couldn't look away. That was the Houston Texans traveling to Chicago to take on the Chicago Bears. Really, Davis Mills had a pretty bad game. 20 for 32, 245 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. And really, there's not a whole lot to write home about. If the one thing for the pass catchers that I'd take away from this week is Brandon Cooks was targeted heavily. He just didn't catch many of them. He had two receptions for 22 yards, so real off day for Brandon Cooks. The one lone bright spot of this Texans offense was Dameon Pierce finally did what everybody wanted to see Dameon Pierce do. He had 20 rushes for 80 yards, averaged 4 yards a carry, added a touchdown with that, and then had another 2 receptions for 21 yards on the ground. So definitely good to see Dameon Pierce doing Dameon Pierce things. Now on the Chicago side of the ball, obviously, first quarter they had a pretty nasty injury to running back David Montgomery. Looked to be a knee injury. Not sure how long he's going to miss for sure. I know right now it's listed as day-to-day, but it's Khalil Herbert season there. If you own Khalil Herbert or if he's available on your waivers, that probably should be the number one waiver claim this week. Khalil Herbert had 20 rushes for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns to go on the ground there, which was oddly enough 3 more attempts with the ball than Justin Fields had passing. Justin Fields, another lackluster day, 8 completions out of 17 attempts for 106 yards and 2 2 interceptions, excuse me. He did, however, save a little bit of face as a fantasy quarterback with 8 rushes for 47 yards. So still not a great day, and really nothing to take away from the pass catchers here. Maybe you take a little bit of solitude from the fact that Darnell Mooney had 6 targets this week. Maybe that's something you can grasp at there and hold out a little bit of hope. But other than that, this game was pretty lackluster. Not a whole lot of answers here unless you happen to be in a bind and started Khalil Herbert. You may be a very happy person. Otherwise, there's probably not a lot from this game you were happy about.
Yeah, that game wasn't much to talk about there. Unfortunately, I was really hoping to see that Bears open up their offense, but I didn't see like that was going to happen. No,
it didn't.
My dessert, and it definitely was not a dessert. It should have been bedtime, more or less. Was the the Broncos at the Niners. The Niners did exactly what I assumed their offense would do. Hand the ball off to either Debo or Jeff Wilson a few times, and then let Jimmy G throw it a couple times there in the game. That was a punt fest. That game was a punt fest. I think it was over 15 punts total in that game. 9 straight drives the Broncos went 3 and out. 9 drives the Broncos went 3 and out, the most in Russell Wilson's career. Like I said, Jimmy G managed the game. He did throw one turnover. But other than that, I mean, Jimmy G just does what Jimmy G does. Just manages the game. He went 18 of 29 for 211 yards. Not much to write home about. Debo saw 5 targets. Debo had 5 catches on 8 targets. I'm reading this backwards. And Ayuk also saw 8 targets and received 3 catches. The only thing is Russ did look a little bit better. He looked a little more comfortable at times. I still don't see the chemistry there with his wide receivers. Jerry Jeudy dropped that deep ball that was wide open. Russ put it right in the basket, and Jeudy dropped it, and then he dropped another one earlier in the game right off his chest. But Sutton definitely...
That Jeudy one you're talking about where he did have his guy beat, they did go back and look at that. The defender did get a little bit of a finger on it. So it may have thrown it off just enough that Jeudy didn't catch it. But Judy's a professional athlete. He still probably should have came down with that.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to point out about Jimmy G is how nicely he spread the ball out. He had 4 different receivers with 3 or more catches there. Sutton looks to be the guy for Russell. He had 8 catches on 10 targets for 97 yards. Melvin Gordon had the lone touchdown for Denver, and Ayuk had the lone touchdown for the 49ers. That's really all that game was. I mean, if you're punting, I guess, if you got punters in your league, congratulations.
Yes, those punters were the high scorers out of that game. If there's a way to track their scoring, I mean, I saw a stat this morning that there was 8 total punts pinned inside the 5-yard line in that game.
Yeah.
So that was definitely an impressive display. Pat McAfee probably really enjoyed that game, but I did not, and a lot of others probably didn't enjoy it for fantasy purposes either. So I'm going to wrap my big boy meal of the week up with a little bit of dessert, too, that also had a little bit of sour taste in my mouth just because I expected things to be a little better. I have the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to the Los Angeles Chargers. Trevor Lawrence looks to be finally what we hope to see out of Trevor Lawrence. 28 completions out of 39 attempts, 262 yards for 3 touchdowns through the air. Running back wise, you got James Robinson with 17 attempts, 100 yards, 5.9 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. He did have a 50-yard that touchdown was a 50-yard run, so that definitely helped his day. And then Travis Etienne had 13 carries as well for 45 yards. And then if you go to the pass catchers, these guys all had a pretty good day. You had Zay Jones with 11 targets, 10 receptions, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Christian Kirk with 9 targets, 6 receptions, 72 yards, and a touchdown. And Marvin Jones Jr. with 7 targets, 4 receptions, 33 yards, and a touchdown. Definitely a good day for the Jaguars. Not so much for the guys on the other side of the ball. Herbert was dealing with that rib issue. Obviously, the shot still had him in a little bit of pain. Did not look himself at all. He completed 25 out of 45 passes for 297 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Austin Eckler, not off to a very good start. A lot of people probably drafted him a lot higher than what they're getting the production return on. 4 carries for 5 yards out of the backfield this week. Definitely lackluster. Then if you go to the pass catchers, Palmer had 9 targets, 6 yards, 99 or 6 receptions for 99 yards, and then Austin Eckler had 8 targets for 8 receptions for 48 yards. So a little bit of saving face from Eckler with his pass catching ability, but still a pretty ho hum day. And then you had the 1 touchdown catch was Mike Williams' lone catch of the day, a 15-yard touchdown. So definitely woefully underperformed on the end of the Los Angeles Chargers. So that situation is going to be one to monitor in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I see with the Chargers, I feel like they're going to have to lean more on Eckler with how bad Herbert's got to be feeling. Obviously, it's painful, so I'm gonna assume we're going to see more Eckler in the upcoming weeks.
That'd be welcome news for owners of Austin Eckler. I'm sure they're probably not real happy right now. So let's talk about. We had a couple huge injuries this weekend, Brant. Let's briefly touch on some of these. So let's start with Tua that you kind of had mentioned there. He took that hard fall. His head slammed down on the turf pretty hard. Took him straight to the locker room after he got up. Was real wobbly. He came back and started in the second half. And the league is actually launching an investigation of whether the concussion protocols were followed. So it'll be very interesting to see on a short week with Miami playing this Thursday night against the Cincinnati Bengals, what happens with all of that. So Tua is one to monitor. So if Tua is one to monitor, so are all your pass catchers there in Miami. So be mindful of that. You had another quarterback from that same division get a high ankle sprain, and Mac Jones. So that's another one to keep your eye on. Again, if you own Jacoby Myers or any of those guys, you may watch that out for that. I expect big performances from the running backs in New England, absent of Mac Jones. And then you had 2 premier running backs get hurt. You had Dalvin Cook with the shoulder separation. They don't expect him to miss a whole lot of time for that, but I don't know how many times he's going to be able to take a hit off of that shoulder and stay in the game. So Alexander Madison's definitely one to watch coming up, and then as well as DeAndre Swift there in Detroit. The rumors were before the game that he was good to go, expect a bigger workload. And then it was pretty much all Jamal Williams. So definitely some injuries to keep your eye on there.
Now with the Swift one, Dan Campbell came out earlier today or on Monday and said that he definitely could see it being beneficial for him to miss the next 2 weeks and then come back and play Dallas after Detroit's bye week. So if Jamal Williams is out there on your waivers, guys, get out there and make that your first claim in my mind. Him or Khalil Herbert should be your first claim this week. Because both those guys should take over the number 1 role. All right, so let's jump into some of these guys that, with all these injuries, let's jump into a few guys that maybe you can sell high to try to get some replacements or maybe some help on your injury front. So I'm going to go with my first guy, and it's a running back. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is my sell high. He's running back 3 in most PPR leagues right now, all while playing less than 50% of the snaps every week. He's only seen 7, 8, and 7 carries in those 3 weeks. He's had 2 touchdowns week 1, 1 touchdown this past week. 1 touchdown this past week. He's pretty much touchdown dependent on his points. He is seeing the targets, but with his snap share, I just don't see how that's sustainable as a running back number 3. I mean, you're telling me with less than 50% of the snap share, he's going to continue to see that target volume and that touchdown work. Jerick McKinnon's playing way too much and playing way too well with the carries that he does see. I don't see this being sustainable for CEH. Right now might be the best value and the biggest value that you will ever get from him because the receiving core minus Travis Kelce is almost brand new with Mahomes. So Mahomes is now starting to develop that chemistry. So I see CEH's targets coming down because I see his deep balls starting to come back out a little bit more. And not to mention, CEH plays Tampa Bay Buccaneers this upcoming Sunday night. That's going to probably drop him pretty low in most trade minds.
Sure. Staying with the running backs, I've also got Cordero Patterson as a sell high, and this is one where I put my money where my mouth is. I had him in a dynasty league. I traded him after Sunday's blow up, where he set his career high with 141 yards rushing. The thing with Cordero Patterson is he will have more games like he did this weekend this year. It's just only going to happen in games that Atlanta can keep the score close. As we saw last week against the Rams, the Falcons got down early to the Rams, and Cordero Patterson was kind of obsolete. So in games that Atlanta's close, I think you're going to see Cordero Patterson continue to have these good weeks. But when he's not, or when Atlanta's not, he's not going to be. So if you can make that be somebody else's headache, I mean, currently he's sitting as RB5 right now in PPR formats, and if you can get rid of him right now for the right price. Again, this is a 31-year-old running back who, prior to last season, his best finish was his rookie year, where he finished as the 26th overall wide receiver back then. So if you can get something for Cordero Patterson and a good return right now, it's something I strongly encourage doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. I'm actually in the midst of trying to move him in the Fantasy Holic League, but everybody seems to want Trevor Lawrence involved in that package, and I'm not willing to move Trevor. So I got to figure out a way to move him, though. So my next one, I'm going to move over to the wide receivers. And this one here is a guy that I didn't think it was going to be this quick to move on from, and that's Terry McLaurin. Is my first of my two wide receivers. He only has seen 3 more targets through 3 weeks than Jahan Dotson, and he's seen less targets than Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel has emerged as Carson Wentz's favorite target. Not to mention, you're also looking at Logan Thomas is still there too, who's seen 6, 5, and 3 targets through 3 weeks. And right now, Carson Wentz has sustained 3 top 30 PPR wide receivers. And I'm sorry, I don't see that sticking through this whole year. And I think, honestly, Curtis Samuel is going to be the guy to own in that 3-headed receiving core there. And I think McLaurin's going to be number 2. And there's going to be some dud weeks for him in the upcoming weeks. 13, 12, and 16 for most people. That's wanting them that are wanting a wide receiver 1 out of Terry McLaurin. So right now might be the best chance to sell high on him because I think worse days are coming for him. We saw how bad Carson Wentz looks against bad defense or good defenses, and they got to play Philly again, and they got to play Dallas, who has a great pass rush and going to put pressure on them. New York Giants, who have one of the best run defenses and then pass rushers in the league right now, too. So I just don't see McLaurin being a top 12 to 20 wide receiver. Right now he's sitting at number 25.
And sure, and that's a guy that you can get that's going to, with name value alone, is going to help raise his value. So if you can get anything out of Terry McLaurin right now and somebody's willing to pay you on what his name is, you definitely, that's an investment you're willing to take and a gamble you're willing to take. I too have 2 wide receivers that I want to discuss. And the first one being is Marquise Hollywood Brown. This week he had 17 targets, 14 receptions, 140 yards. And, you may be saying, why would I trade that? Well, I'm not sure those kind of numbers are sustainable when D-Hop comes back. And right now, a lot of people in your league probably aren't thinking about the fact that D-Hop comes back, except for maybe the guy that owns D-Hop or maybe the guy that owns Kyler Murray. Mm-hmm. So if you can pawn Marquise Brown off on somebody in your league that maybe isn't paying attention to the fact that D-Hop comes back and the fact that maybe they're not paying attention to the fact that they have Philly in 2 weeks, it's also going to tank Hollywood's value a little bit when Darius slays on him. This is a guy that right now you could fetch a pretty good penny for just because of how much he exploded this week. Right now he's wide receiver 10 in PPR formats. Again, it should be a pretty pretty good return on your draft capital that you spent on Marquise, and let that be somebody else's problem when D-Hop comes back.
Yeah, absolutely. So this last one here, I shed a little tear when I jotted my notes down, and I didn't realize how unfortunate it has been for him. I guess actually, as an owner of him, it's been fortunate, but Rashad Bateman might be a guy that you need to sell high on right now. And this one hurts a little bit. Like I said, I love this guy. I've been high on him all offseason, and I am not going to trade him. But I think it is time to trade him. Mark Andrews is obviously the number one there. Bateman's seen 5 targets week 1, 7 targets week 2, and 4 targets week 3. Well, he's only caught the ball 2 in week 1, 4 in week 2, and 2 in week 3. Lamar Jackson, as much as I thought he was doing a lot better with his accuracy, apparently is still Lamar Jackson. And Bateman's going to be almost boom or bust. This is almost like this is another one near and dear to my heart. This is almost like owning Tyler Lockett 2.0, where you're going to get a great week out of him one week because he got you that 50-yard bomb, touchdown, and then the next week you're going to get like 10 to 12 points out of him, maybe if you're lucky. And Bateman's not, until Lamar gets more accurate or gets out of there, I don't know if Bateman is that guy. They're running almost like a committee because we saw week 1, or committee of receivers. We saw week 1, Duvernay had a great outing, and then this week we saw Andrews really step up and be the number one. And I just don't know if Bateman can hold on to being that guy. Now, if you're starting him in your flex or flex 2, I get that's great. But right now is your chance. You could probably trade him to get some good value because, I mean, he is sitting as the wide receiver number 28, I think it was. So you could still get some good value. And, I mean, he's hung double-digit points every week. So I think if you want anything for him, he did not this week because he only saw 4 targets and 2 catches. And he gets New England he gets Buffalo and Cincy and the Giants coming up. So he does have a little rough stretch of schedule there.
Yeah, and it's worth noting too that his teammate Devin Duvernay is right now ranked 21st overall in PPR formats, which is absolutely mind-boggling. But I digress. My last sell high candidate is very much a sell high candidate, and the simple fact that he absolutely blew up this week, and I don't think you'll see it again all season. So I'm talking about Devontae Parker, the wide receiver in New England. 10 targets this week, 5 receptions, 156 yards receiving on 5 receptions this week. This is a guy that everybody's been panning and clawing, waiting for him to do something for the last several years. We haven't seen a whole lot. We had that one really good year of him, and then it's kind of just been nothing ever since. So if you've been holding on to Devontae Parker, you've been waiting for him to do something. He's done it this week. Get him off your roster. Again, send him for whatever anybody's willing to sell him to you for because Mac Jones is out. And Jacoby Myers happened to miss last week. This current week where you saw Devontae Parker absolutely go off. So I would get rid of Devontae Parker if at all possible.
Yeah. Let's throw out the great news for our listeners to know. I have officially released Kenny Golladay from my dynasty roster after 3 long years of holding on to him. I have officially released Kenny Golladay. So no more Kenny Golladay jokes from you.
You'll still have Kenny Golladay jokes because I'm sure you'll pick him back up off the waiver after he gets 4 targets in a game here shortly.
I'm not gonna lie, I looked to pick him up before the game tonight.
Anyway, so if you've been following along with us over the course of this, again with us being a dynasty show, one of the things that we wanted to try to do and bring to you guys was some college players to start looking at, to start doing some early research on for your your rookie drafts next year. If you were in a Superflex dynasty, last week we talked about quarterbacks, a couple quarterbacks. We'll hit them again in a few weeks. But this week we're on to running backs. And again, a lot of times, if you can get a premier running back, those are the guys that go early. So if you're 0-3 in your dynasty league right now, this may be a name for you to start looking at. And that is Bijan Robinson, the running back, the junior running back out of the University of Texas. He's 6 foot tall, 220 pounds. In 2021, he ran the ball 195 times for 1,127 yards, 5.8 yards per carry, 11 touchdowns, and he added 26 receptions for 295 yards and 4 touchdowns. This year, through 4 games, he's had 67 attempts, 412 yards, so averaging over 100 yards per game, 6.4 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns, 8 receptions, 154 yards, 1 touchdown. So this should be his best career year. This is a guy that a lot of people think will be one of the top picks taken in next year's rookie drafts, as well as a lot of people right now are saying, barring injury, this could be a first-round running back, which I know we don't see those too awful much. In recent memory, you've had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Najee Harris, and Travis Etienne. So, again, we don't get a whole lot of first-round running backs. This is a guy that I expect to be taken in the first round of the actual NFL draft next year. So, one to keep your eye on there.
Yeah, so I went out and I didn't want to just break out one of the normal names. I was trying to save that for a little bit later. I knew you were going with Robinson, so I wanted to get a guy that could be a little sleeper running back, a guy that nobody has seen play this year, actually. He is suspended for a DUI incident out of the University of Kentucky, Chris Rodriguez Jr. He had 225 attempts, 1,379 yards last year, 9 touchdowns, 6.1 yards per carry, 5'11", 224 pounds. Now, I watched a little bit of his highlights today. I watched some of his tape today. This guy's explosive. He's quick. He's very shifty. He's got good vision finding the hole. He has a great burst. This is a guy that I honestly could see shooting up a lot of rankings. As soon as he does come back October 1st. He actually, in several things that I did look up, he was number 3 on a lot of people's boards prior to his suspension last year and at the end of last year, because he got suspended in the offseason. So he was actually number 3 on a lot of people's boards going into this season. So I really wanted to look into this guy because I hadn't heard his name, and I do know I'm going to need running backs. I seem to have an injury trend. So this is a guy that I was looking into, and I think this is a guy just to keep an eye on. Now, I'm not saying go out there and just instantly jump on him and everything else. You know, if you're in a Devy league or something, don't go out there picking this guy, just instantly looking to pick him up and everything. But this is a guy to keep an eye on. Like I said, I watched a little bit of his tape earlier today, and he looked very explosive. He looked like a guy that could be a very good change of pace back in the NFL. And with his size, there's nothing that I saw with his size says he can't be a lead back in the NFL at 5'11", 224 pounds. He is a senior, Absolutely. So he should be coming out.
Absolutely. You know, Brent, not that I would ever condone driving after drinking or a DUI, but when you take a bunch of young kids and you put them in Kentucky, I'm not sure this is, out of the realm of expectations here. Hopefully that young man, still gets a chance in the NFL to show what he can do. But like I said, we're going to be this is going to be an every week thing. Next week we'll come at you with a couple of wideouts to start looking at, and then we'll hit the tight ends after the week after that, and then we'll be right back to a couple new quarterbacks. So hopefully by the time your drafts come around, you've heard some of these names on the cast, and you've looked into some of these guys depending on what position you need, and maybe it helps you out a little bit. So I think the only thing left for us to do, Brant, is to cover this Thursday night game this week where the Miami Dolphins are traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. What do you think about this game?
Well, it must be said they both are traveling. One's traveling from Miami to Cincy, and Cincy's coming from New York. So they both will be, traveling on this short week. I look for this game to be explosive. I look for the Miami offense to get back on track. Tyreek Hill seeing Eli Apple could be a dangerous thing. He's already come out and tweeted, Eli Apple, I own you. Those may not be the exact words, but he definitely has put a tweet out saying that he owns him pretty much. I look for this to be a very back-and-forth shootout type of game. All the fantasy relevant players that you own in this game should probably be put in your lineup. I don't see I don't see benching anybody. And so this game's going to be a fun one to watch. I would like to see how Miami rebounds from that slugfest they had with Buffalo. And I do say rebounds because 200 yards offense is nothing, especially, when you had two receivers that almost had that many yards 2 weeks ago. Well, they did. They had 300 combined 2 weeks ago. So I'd like to see them get back on track.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm definitely keeping my eye on is the Tua situation.
Yes.
How's that head injury or lower back or whatever it actually ends up being affect this Thursday night game? On paper, it should be a pretty fun game to watch. That Miami secondary and Miami defense could be problems for Joe Burrow, who has had a hard time staying upright and has had a hard time not turning the ball over. We could see more of both of those things this week as well. I'm sure Jamar Chase is looking to get right. I know he had a tough go-round with Sauce Gardner. The two of them got into it a little bit on the field. Jamar Chase was a little obviously upset. It seemed like Sauce kind of had the clamps on him. But this should be a really good Thursday night game. I know, last week's wasn't all that entertaining. I know there was some entertainment value with Amari Cooper and Nick Chubb and things of that. But this should be a game where we're looking for our fantasy teams to get off to a good start right off the bat. If you got Tyreek Hill, if you've got Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, Tua, you're looking for these guys to put points on the board and get you started off on the right foot this week. So definitely a good Thursday night game. Definitely one I'm going to be tuned in and glued to.
I believe it needs to still be said, don't flex any of these guys on your Thursday night games. I'm going to take your little saying there. But, yeah, definitely. I know there's a lot of guys, but so you definitely got to be looking out on there. I mean, you're looking at Waddle, Tyreek, Chase, Higgins, Boyd, Mixon. Don't flex these guys.
Absolutely. And again, too, I want to throw out, don't hesitate to come with any of your start sits on Sunday mornings when Brant and I are live from 9 a.m. Central Standard Time to 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Come in there, hang out with us, throw some questions, get right on your Sunday mornings before these games start kicking off. There will be live football this weekend when we do it with the London game this weekend. So we look forward to that, having some football on as we do our live this weekend. But we hope to see you guys there.
Yeah, and if you have any questions prior to that London game, don't hesitate to reach out to us in our messenger. And ask about it either through the Fatboyz Dynasty Facebook page or the Fantasyholics Facebook page. Don't hesitate to reach out. There's a good group of guys behind the Fantasyholics, and I know that you and me will be on monitoring the message boards prior to going live because, we'll be getting our research in and looking at the weather. And speaking of weather, we both would like to apologize about those horrendous storms that we talked about going through Tampa Bay this week. Yeah. I mean, still, there was really nobody that was that great on offense, though.
No, Russell Gage and Alan Lazard were about it. But
how about Dobbs' 8 catch?
Yeah, to Romeo Dobbs too, which I think we did say we did talk about him a little bit and said that he was definitely one to watch. But yeah, every once in a while the weatherman's wrong, and it makes us look horrendous when we talk about it too. But that's what happens when you try to bring your best work on a Sunday morning right out when you roll out of bed. Sometimes you can't get them all right, Brent.
That's right. That's right.
But again, guys, thanks for listening. Hope to see you Sunday. And don't hesitate to reach out with questions. As always, stay hungry.
And stay fat, my friends.